Good evening and welcome to CYC News for today, the 28th of June 2015 and the 21st of Baona, 17:31 a.m. I'm George McHale.
And I'm Anastasia Attia. In today's headlines, UN calls shocking displacement of 4 million Iraqis. Iraqi Human Rights Commission on the 2,000 displaced Christians in Jordan. Islamic State encourages attacks on non-Muslim believers during Ramadan. Evangelical Church leader in South Sudan, most priests imprisoned under Sudan's government. And all the latest updates at the Copa America.
To our top story about the 4 million displaced refugees in Iraq. The Office of the UN High Commissioner of Refugees declared this as a shocking number, leaving half of the displaced Iraqis with no appropriate refuge. Iraq has been witnessing the largest wave of displacement in its history after the Islamic State took control of a number of cities and areas in West and North Iraq. According to Al Sumariya News, a UN office statement said that out of the 4 million, 3 million have been displaced since January 2015, and the other million were displaced before January. The statement said the number increases daily. It mentioned that half of the displaced Iraqis lack proper shelter and basic necessities, forcing them to live in abandoned buildings and temporary structures. Additionally, the number of Iraqis who need assistance has quadrupled in the last 12 months to 8 million people. The statement said that the World Refugee Day celebration on June 20 reminds us of the millions who were forced to leave their houses and families and were forced to emigrate, searching for peace and protection. Vian Dakhil, MP for the Kurdistan Alliance, said Sunday that 12% of Iraqis were displaced due to terrorist acts and military operation in many areas in Iraq.
The Iraqi Human Rights Commission released a statement on Monday saying nearly 2,000 displaced Christians are currently in Jordan preparing to seek asylum in another country through international organizations. The Commission explained that predominantly Christian areas in Iraq need twice the work to ensure the return of displaced people. Salama Al-Kavaji, a member of the Commission, said in a press statement to Shafaq News that hundreds of Christian families fled Iraq over the past month, especially from the Nineveh Plain, and resorted to many countries including Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan. The city of Mosul and Nineveh Plain have become almost empty of Christians for the first time in hundreds of years after the Islamic State offered them choices of converting to Islam, paying jizya or facing death. The militants later seized their property and possessions. Jizya in Islam is an amount of money paid by non-Muslim dhimmis who are capable of fighting in return for the protection. The elderly women, children, the disabled, and those who are fighting alongside Muslims are exempted. Most Christians fled to the Kurdistan region, while others left the country in a series of continuous migration since the fall of the former regime in 2003.
To shocking news, where ISIS have burned an 80-year-old Christian woman to death from Kremis, Nineveh Plain, because she refused to appear before the Islamic State court and to obey Sharia law imposed by ISIS in Mosul. According to the Tayyar Lebanese website, Kremis city is located at the Nineveh Plain. Al-Hamadaniyah, Nineveh, besides tens of Christians as Assyrian cities, majority of citizens of Kremis are Christians who belong to Chaldean Church and Syriac Assyrian Church, and a few of them belongs to Shabak people.
Furthermore, the Islamic State encouraged its terrorist supporters to launch attacks on Christians during the holy month of Ramadan, which began last week. The call came in a 28-minute audio recording attributed to its spokesman Abu Muhammad al-Adani. The Islamic State called on its supporters in the audio posted on the internet to turn Ramadan into a time of sorrow for unbelievers, including Christians, Shiites, and all non-Muslims. The Crusaders, the Western countries, have lost hope of putting out jihad in Iraq, so they decided to sell this country to Iran and the Kurds, said the speaker. The organization also appealed to Muslims in Lebanon, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia to fight the tyrant rulers, stressing the need to launch more attacks in Iraq, Syria, and Libya. Adnani promised US President Barack Obama to cause setbacks for him. Adnani's recording coincides with the anniversary of the establishing what they called the caliphate in the vast areas they control in Iraq and Syria.
The continued imprisonment of 2 Sudanese pastors in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, raises questions about how Sudan deals with religious minorities, an issue that has deep historical roots and is still of great importance. Reverend Yat Michael and Reverend Peter Yen were accused of numerous charges, including undermining constitutional system, waging war against the state, and espionage. The last 2 charges can lead to the death penalty. Amnesty International considers these 2 men prisoners of conscience, who were arrested and charged only because of their peaceful expression of their religious conviction. The issue has raised the attention of Christian organizations defending Christians' rights in the United States. The organizations state that the 2 men are being subjected to persecution because of their Christian faith. In a famous speech in the late 2010, Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir said, "Islam will be the official religion, Islamic law will be the main source of legislation, and the Arabic language will be the official language of the state." This may seem logical in a country where official statistics indicate that 97% of the population is Muslim, but they arouse the concern of many non-Muslims, as well as Muslims who do not adopt the vision of al-Bashir about religion and its role in public life.
ISIS militants disguised as Kurdish security forces infiltrated Kobani on Thursday and killed many civilians, said a spokesman for the Kurds in Kobani. Idris Nassan, speaking to CNN by phone from the Kurdish-held city in northern Syria, described a complex attack on Thursday morning in which ISIS militants entered Kobani from the east and west in disguise. ISIS fighters also attacked Syrian regime forces on Thursday in the northeastern city of Al-Hasaka, said the London-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Analysts said the dual offensive against Kobani and Al-Hasaka might be an ISIS effort to divert Kurdish fighters away from Raqqa, ISIS' self-declared capital in Syria, where the terror group appeared to be bracing for a Kurdish attack. In the Kurdish village of Bak Butan near Kobani, ISIS militants killed at least 20 people, including some who were executed, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Activists say ISIS has detonated up to 3 car bombs near the Syrian-Turkish border. Kobani is a strategically valuable city that sits on the border with Turkey. ISIS took the city last fall after a brutal back-and-forth battle, but abandoned it in January in the face of a Kurdish offensive backed by airstrikes by the US-led international coalition.
Persecution of Middle East Christians in countries dominated by Islamic State has created a disaster among Christians, forcing emigration to neighboring countries where diplomatic, military and political guarantees are lacking, said Syrian researcher Joseph Yaoub, a political science professor at the Catholic University of Lyon. The lack of guarantees is causing Christians to think about migration to Europe, the United States, Canada and Australia, Yaoub said, in remarks to Asian News. Yaoub stressed that the situation is worrying in Iraq and Syria, and throughout the Middle East, especially after the invasion of Mosul and the Nineveh Plain in June 2014 by Islamic State. He urged urgent political solutions. The Syrian researcher added, "This requires the Arab world to profoundly analyse its deep political and ideological narrow-mindedness."
In Australia, a case that has shocked the entire Australian community since last year, the missing then 3-year-old William Terrell. Detectives investigating his disappearance are joining with child protection advocate Bravehearts to renew the appeal for public help to find him. The appeal comes on the 4th birthday of William, 26th of June, who went missing from his grandmother's property at Kendall on the New South Wales mid-north coast last September. According to the Daily Telegraph, William was playing hide-and-seek with his younger sister in the front yard of his grandmother's home when he vanished. Washing machine repairman William Spedding remains the only named person of interest in the case, with his home and office being searched by detectives a number of times throughout the hunt. Earlier this month, a Spider-Man figurine was discovered in Spedding's work van when it was searched by investigators. Spedding, who is currently bailed on unrelated child sexual assault charges, has denied any involvement in William's disappearance. In April, police said they were investigating the possibility William may have been a victim of a pedophile ring.
And our final story is sourced from the BBC. Chile moved into the Copa America semi-finals as Mauricio Ayala's late goal knocked Uruguay out of the tournament. Chile dominated ball possession before Edison Cavani was sent off for a second yellow card. Uruguay's tournament ended in a disgrace in a stormy game that saw 6 yellow cards in addition to 2 red cards at Estadio Nacional in Santiago. The biggest talking point before Ayala's winner was Cavani's first red card for Uruguay on his 76th appearance for his country. Having been shown a yellow card for confronting a linesman, the 28-year-old was ordered off after TV pictures appeared to show Gonzalo Yara provoking him. Yara theoretically fell to the ground in response to a raised hand from Cavani. Cavani argued with the referee for several minutes before finally being persuaded to leave the pitch. Cavani had also been a major doubt to start the Santiago clash because his father is currently detained by Uruguayan police after the truck he was driving, owned by Cavani, hit and killed a 19-year-old motorcyclist on Monday. The match was then halted for several minutes after Uruguay's players surrounded the referee and linesman, and officials and players from both sides scuffled on the field. Chile, who dominated the match with 80% possession, have not won the Copa America since 1916. And that's it for CYC News for today. Stay tuned for more Christian content. I'm George McHale.
And I'm Anastasia Azia from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. Good night and God bless.